Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cash Talk. And today I'm joined by Ayten. Ayten, how are you?
I'm well, John. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Just a bit of a windy day outside, so trying not to get blown over. Yeah,
It's a bit mental out there. I don't know what's happening.
yeah, it is. But funnily enough, I got a phone call from the nurse at school that one of my kids got blown over. So very eventful how the wind is.
They're quite light, so
yeah,
be careful. Stay indoors.
Yeah, definitely. But it actually is probably a good segue because we're talking about risks today, and actually it's really like where I started in finance. So, you know, my major at university, financial risk management degree. When I first started back with my cousin, it was all around risk mitigation and risk. And all the greatest really investors of all time were really great risk managers. So, you know, this is hopefully really insightful to get an understanding about why I love risk and understanding it. But yeah, risk, Ayten, big part of financial planning, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Because when you think about a financial planner, and often when I speak to people, the first thing they ask you is, how much money can you make me? But actually that's only a part of what we do. The real impact that we have is mitigating those different risks that you can have in your life. And obviously you're the best person to kind of explain because of your background, but also like, why do we manage risk and not returns?
Yeah. Well, number one rule of investing is don't lose money. Okay. Great Warren Buffett says it very clearly. Don't lose money. And if you kind of take that away and you kind of look at all of the forefathers or the greats in regards to investing, you see that they've always got an iteration of don't lose money. Yeah. And risk, when we're really talking about risk, what are we really talking about? The risk of losing money. Yeah. The risk of it being eroded, everything you're building, and then an event happens or something happens and then your money losing. He goes as far as to say that rule number 2 is don't forget rule number 1. So you kind of look at risk and you kind of say, okay, well, where does it come from? Because it's multifaceted. You know, a lot of people will look at, say, market risk as the kind of the biggest one. You know, market goes down, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But there's other factors, other huge factors, both financial risk measures or financial risks, but also the behavioural risks as well too. And managing both the behavioural risks and the financial risks is very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, very difficult. And, you know, I'm 2 decades in and I'm still not perfect at it. Like I'm still refining it and getting better. And, you know, I'm better now than I was 2 years ago. And, you know, I would hope that in 3 years from now I'm even better. But I think when people think about risk, probably the 2 main ones they think about is market risk, coupled by probably, I would say probably the second one is health risk. Yeah?
Yeah, correct. And I'll just read off on my notes just the risks that we've got. So market risk, timing risk, economic risk, interest rate risk, concentration risk, regulatory risk, longevity risk. So these are just like a few of what the actual risks are. And obviously they're risks that we take into consideration. But one of the ones that you mentioned there is behavioural risk.
Yeah.
So when you're kind of doing it alone, doing your finances alone, and we have quite often come into interactions with people who want what's 10 years from now today. So they want to take on more risk. But I think what happens is they don't actually realise the risk that they're taking off because all they're focusing on is the reward. So what we know, I think in one of the previous episodes that we spoke about, you kind of had this analogy where we've got somewhere to be and we've got a certain time to get there. Now, if we leave later, we're going to obviously take on more risk to kind of get there.
By speeding. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So we're speeding to get there. Otherwise, if we want to get there on time without speeding, going the speed limit, we leave a little bit earlier. That's really the same concept when we're looking at finances. Because people often, and this is where those high risk investments kind of come into play, because obviously we haven't done anything for the last 20 years. We haven't invested. Maybe we've just been paying down the mortgage. We've just been living life. We're buying what we want. And then we get to a stage and we go, oh no, like I've got nothing for the future. I'll now maybe put in 20, 30, 50, $100,000, $500,000 into this one investment and just bank on that one investment. And if it goes well, then great, I've made money. If it doesn't go well, then often people don't think about that.
There's a few indirect and direct risks that's associated with the individual that wants to take on more risk. And I see it very often, especially in the 20s, 30s, 40s age group, maybe even early 50s, overconfidence bias. Yeah. And so these biases link into the risks because the main reason is because we haven't had a proper crash since the GFC.
Yeah.
So, you taking 2008-9 period. So, what are we now? 16 years. Yeah. 16 years without a blemish. COVID was the worst for this because COVID markets went down and then they got pumped with money and they went straight back up in what we call a V-shaped recovery. That taught nothing to no one.
Yeah.
What that taught is that if something goes bad, we're just going to print money.
Yeah.
Cool. So people have this thought that if they just pump money into property, stocks, these high-risk orientated investments and even borrow to do the thing, that they're going to be fine. Well, the reality is that's not the case. Yeah, and the reality is that this overconfidence bias is causing your emotions to make decisions that are more aggressive than they should be. And I say to people, ultimately what people want when it comes to their financial plans is they want certainty of outcome. And when you use the analogy that you spoke about before, it's like, let's cut the crap. Do you want to get there or not? Yes, I want to get there. It's my child's wedding or it's my, I want to be there. Certainty? Cool. This is what we need to do to get there. You speeding is increasing the probability of you not getting to your child's wedding, for example. How would you feel if you didn't make it to your child's wedding? Oh my goodness. I can't, that's what you're risking.
Yeah.
That's what you're risking. Yes, you've driven the car all the time. Yes, you haven't had an accident in how long? This is like the market not having a crash in so long.
Yeah.
But we know that it happens.
Yeah, correct.
And if it happens to happen on your way to your child's wedding that you've been planning for months and months and months, not only could you not be there because of the fatality of it or be injured, but what would that mean if you actually didn't get to see that?
Yeah. And another thing that just came to mind as you were talking is that we've got a lot of clients that think that they hear these terms, for example, debt recycling.
Yep.
I'm going to I'll take on more debt and I'll accelerate. And often what happens, and we've done the modelling to show this, obviously every situation is different, but it only improves slightly. So that taking on that extra burden to only in 10 years' time be slightly above 1 or 2% above where you would have been if you hadn't have taken on that risk. I think people need to see that more so because they can't see the future. So they can't really assess, well, is this really worth it?
It's exhilarating to go fast, Ayten. It's exhilarating to go fast. And so as humans, we have psychology where we want to go fast.
Yeah.
We want the adrenaline rush. And then that crosses over into our finances. And the problem we've got with that is that we know that actually patience and consistency is what wins. So the data is saying that you wanting the exhilaration is at your own detriment. And so the behavioural risks are a huge element in that. And I was actually speaking to a person earlier today, and she's probably listening to this podcast, so shout out to you know who you are. But she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
We had a really deep conversation about technical stuff and things that she's doing, and she's doing really well. Emotionally and behaviourally, I can see there's problems. Not just in regards to some of the other risks that I see, but just in regards to her simply managing her own money, she has this emotional connection. And when you have an emotional connection to your own money, emotions are driving higher, and therefore are you making logical decisions? And so a common thing that people get when they get aware of this is they'll say, yeah, you're right. I don't have this clarity that I have. I could be off course 2%. And I wouldn't know any better because I can't trick my own mind. I'm going down a rabbit hole, and I don't think so. These behavioural things are playing havoc on people's decision making, even for the people that know. So this is where, you know, psychologists are really good at this. Like, they won't see their own family as patients. And like, even for me, like, I won't see my immediate family as clients. And then we have that rule inside here because being emotional, it clouds your judgment. Okay. And like I said, don't look at us, even look at the medical professionals, how they disengage from that because there's a conflict. So, but flipping that to now the financial risks, when you look at some of the risks that I see commonly, one of the biggest ones I see is concentration risk.
Yes.
Huge. Yeah. And people, like, I think they take it for granted. I like, there's this naivety to concentration risk because I see this in two ways. Yeah. Mainly, I see it in a stock, for example, which is in like an employee share plan.
Yeah.
Where they're working for, say, like a Google, or they're working for something like this, and they've got this huge equity share portfolio in one stock. Essentially, their financial future is being banked on the financial performance of that one company.
Correct.
Flip that onto the other side, on the property side. That's the property portfolio. That's, I don't know, all in the same area, or they've got one big house that's got all of the equity, and they're having conversations that they want to buy more. And so concentration risk, what I'm trying to get at, is happening both at an underlying investment level, so the single stock or the single property level, but it's also being done at the asset class level, where you've got this concentration risk from an asset class level. Now, obviously, both assets, both property and stocks, have good characteristics, but they also have bad characteristics as well. And if you have too much in one, you're getting the full grunt of the bad and the good of that. What we find is that when people create epic levels of wealth and do really well, they've got a combination of both. They've got a combination of the stock portfolio, a combination of the property portfolio, diversified quite well in different characteristics, and have a really, really good safety net for security, opportunity, liquidity.
So one thing that you mentioned there, obviously, with diversification risk or concentration risk, is I often see people who have, for example, that large asset or large cash in that one asset. So be specifically in shares, for example. They are so emotionally attached because in your example, while I've worked for Google or West Farmers or whatever it is, I've worked for that and I'm emotionally attached because I can,
I built that company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was part of that, so I don't want to let it go. From an outside perspective, and like this is all around your life as well. It's not just finances. It's, if it comes to, if you get upset about something, if you remove yourself from that situation, you can often see, well, okay, from a clear mind, well, this is why that's a risk. And this is why we need to let go of that in order to build something else. And that's where we kind of come in. We're not emotionally attached. We can see clearly, okay, well, being $150,000 of your portfolio is in one asset and you've got $20,000 in another two, let's say, whilst it doesn't seem like it because history of that company in the last, let's say, 10 years. If we have a look at the big banks, for example, CBA is the one that's kind of the outlier. All the rest of the banks have pretty much stayed stable over the last 5-10 years. But we are still so fixated on those big banks because they give us income as a society.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think the other one to add in here is business owners, this concentration risk of their own asset. And so, I look at myself, for example, and the concentration risk of my business was glaringly the biggest issue I had.
Yeah.
People are like, that's not an issue. Well, it is in a way because, like, if you think about, and I'm not going to put myself anywhere near this, but just for the explanation, if you look at someone like Elon Musk, for example, like a big portion of his wealth is the stocks in which he has in Tesla, but over time he's diluted that. You look at like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, same scenario, diluted that over time. They're actually reducing concentration risk. Yeah, they're reducing concentration risk. And when I talk about business owners, for example, so many business owners build these businesses, and then when they kind of stop, the business stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So managing that concentration risk at a business level, personal level, all of these different levels, that's risk mitigation. And this goes for all of the risks. See, you can't get rid of risk, okay? It's not like you can just obliterate everything. Everything has a risk that's associated with it, but you can manage it, okay? And how you manage it is, I think, where the magic happens. And, Ayten, me and you just got out of a meeting where this was the typical chasing the returns, forgetting the plan, because it takes time, guys. Yeah, and this person was not even 12 months into the relationship, following the returns again, not focusing on the risk management. And I had to kind of make him aware of what we've done from a risk management perspective. And ultimately, we've created more certainty, more confidence in the plan being achieved with having an amazing outcome, actually exceeding the plan.
Yeah.
So we were able to, from his previous scenario, decrease the risk across multiple different ways and increase the probability and certainty of outcome. Now, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's like me saying about the kid's wedding before, like, you can do 40 kilometers an hour the whole way, and you're going to get there 30 minutes before schedule.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's cruise it. Yeah. So that's the journey that we want our clients to be on.
Yeah.
But we do understand it's like being in the car and doing 40 kilometers on the freeway. You're like, why can't we speed it up? Why can't we speed it up? So it's only natural for you to want to increase risk. And so over time, and behaviors take years to develop, okay, you get better at this.
Yeah.
Going back to other risks, okay, because there's a few other ones that I want to kind of talk about. The other one is that I see that ruins people is liquidity risk, okay? So especially when it comes to property, not having liquidity, but also as well to just not having liquid assets available. What's your thoughts on that one, Ayten?
Yeah, the thought, what's the saying? Asset rich, income poor.
Yeah.
So often, like, I don't know why, it must be the algorithm, but I'm constantly getting these feeds on social media about property. How many properties do you need to be financially free and all this kind of stuff, which is, great in theory, but it's that problem where, well, you can't sell a bathroom if you're short on cash. So I think it goes back to, it's kind of all linked, isn't it?
Yeah, all of it's linked.
All the risks.
There's about
are linked.
40 to 45 that are linked with each other.
Yeah, correct.
So if you had to do like a mind map and you had you in the middle, there's all of these risks that are trying to take your money away from you.
Correct.
And you've got to kind of hold them up and manage them all. And like
Octopus arms.
It is. And like, to be honest with you, and I'm going to be straight with you, for the normal person, it's actually better that they're kind of a bit ignorant about all this stuff, because the people that are actually in the know will probably sometimes have a little bit of anxiety knowing how much is actually going on. So it's like the doctor who's performing surgery and says like, Ayten, everything's going to be all right. In the background is like, tick, 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 tick.
Correct.
That's what we see when we're looking at a client. But yes, you're right about the bathroom. You can't sell a bathroom in a property. So what people do, they borrow against their house and that increase on their gearing to then offset. Now, that is a temporary band-aid that we put, but also now we've got borrowed funds. Now we've got gearing risk that's associated with it. And then you have the discipline that if you're not going to touch the money for non-productive reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like, often you get to retirement and you've got clients that have got 3, 4, 5 investment properties. They've got no income. So it's like, okay, great. So what are we doing now? Well, we're retired. We've got no income coming through because we're not working anymore. How are we getting the income from the properties? And obviously, with what's happened in the last couple of years with property, the expenses going up specifically on property, it's very difficult where the income comes in and the expenses go out, that you've got sufficient funds to live or fund your retirement.
Yeah, I'll never forget a lady that came into this office. She had, I kid you not, she had 60 properties. She came in with like a folder. And she was like, I'm like, why are you here today? And number one was, I'm paying too much tax. Cool. All right. Work that out. Next, don't have enough money to pay for it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't run the numbers. I don't think I still understand it now. But the reality is that those properties were not producing the level of income that she needed for the lifestyle that she became accustomed to. And therefore, because of that, she had to sell. Yeah. Now, when you go to sell, remember how they're all interlinked with one another? Now you've got timing risk. Now you've got... So there's this constant battle with risk and risk and risk and risk. The other one, which is that I want to talk about, is one that we have a big focus on, but I don't think actually we talk about it enough, Ayten, and that's longevity risk. And that's the risk that your money doesn't outlive you. And I think in Australia, because of superannuation and like the social security benefits, we're a bit like laissez-faire on the whole longevity risk. Yeah. You know, from Turkish background, you know, you run out of money.
Good luck.
Good luck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a lot of countries around the world, they don't have that safety net where it's just like, so I think in Australia, I do understand there's a little bit of like, she'll be right. You know what I mean? But the reality is that with the cost of living and with everything going on, I don't see age pensions getting to the point that they're going to be keeping up with the lifestyle increases that we've been experiencing and that we expect to continue to happen. So that's number one. Number two is pretty scary for most people. And that's the point in which you've stopped work at 60 or 65 or whenever the year is. And you haven't worked on your behaviours. You haven't worked on your risks. You've gone down the she'll be right. You deplete all of your superannuation within the first 10 years and you find yourself as a 70, 75-year-old with nothing left.
That's concerning. But what I find more concerning is actually people who I speak with who are in their 20s, 30s and 40s and they're just spending up big. And you go, okay, cool, like that's great for now. But then you get to retirement. What do you think the age pension is? Yeah, well, that's the thing. So it's not going to keep up with the lifestyle scenario. So people right now that are approaching retirement, I see it as a problem, but I don't see it, you're right, as a bigger problem for the generations to come. So the people, like you said, 30s, 40s, whatever, they're not changing behaviours. Yeah, exactly. They're living on 100, you know, their expenses, not including mortgages, I'm talking about general living expense, 100, 150, whatever $1,000 it is. Age pension, at best, is going to cover a third of that. Yeah. And then they're going and saying, well, I'm banking on my superannuation. If you keep spending in what you're doing, you could just imagine what that superannuation balance needs to be. Yeah. And that's usually not going to come just with normal super contributions from your employer because you're exceeding the amount that you're putting forward towards that. So you're in this kind of conundrum where you're borrowing from tomorrow. And in reality, most people, and for viewers and listeners out there, be real with yourself. Like, when do you think you're going to pay off your debt? Yeah. Most people I speak to are like, these days are just like, I don't know, the term of the loan at best, because I'll probably refinance if they're on, like, you know, so we're talking about debt being carried for a long, long time. And that's in current generation that are on age pension, we haven't experienced that. So the longevity risk is something that I'm constantly testing. I actually tested it with a new client today. Does their money outlive them? They're on good income, but they're late to the game. Yeah. They're late to the game. And so, you know, we had some moving parts. We had some real goals that we had to set, some targets. And yes, they'll be good. But if they keep going the way they're going, wow, you know, 3-4 years into retirement, it was nosediving. Yeah. And these are people that are spending I think they were spending 117, not including the mortgage. So there's many risks out there. Yeah, but like, I think it's not talked about enough, Ayten. You know, I constantly say to people, like, it's more about managing the risks than it is about managing the returns. Yeah, you listen to Benjamin Graham, you listen to Warren Buffett, you listen to Howard Marks, you look at all of these people, manage risk. Manage risk. And I think that's what's like really urged me to understand that, like, and it might be from my cultural background in regards to, like, you know,
the atrocities that my grandparents and stuff needed to go through with the Nazis bombing them for so much. It was this just everything's going to be taken away from us. So maybe I was brought up in a way that I was just more aware of risks and then learning about risks. But, you know, I see the results. You know, I was very happily a client was just emailing me that they've, you know, I can't keep up with where they are in the world, and they're going to go to the Shangri-La. It's apparently like I thought it was just a hotel chain, to be honest with you, but apparently it's some mystical place in China that they're going to, and it's two sisters that are often traveling the world, and they're going to see this stuff. But like I look at their story, and they've been working with me for 10 plus years now, maybe even 15 years, but you know, we never chase returns with them.
Yeah.
You know, it was around certainty for them to be in the position they are. They listen to the plan. They, you know, we manage timing risk. We, you know, manage market risk. We manage liquidity risk, lifestyle risk. You know, we transition them across into certain, solutions to create more certainty. But I think the biggest one is they were actively listening, and they were hearing what I was saying for so long to create better behaviors. And before we jumped on here, something that I was reflecting on with my own journey was, you know, I focused so much on who I needed to become. And as I've built and you know, my wealth has become more fruitful, I've become way more purposeful with my money. And it's not like these ladies are the wealthiest clients we have. Like they're good, don't get me wrong, they're in a very good position. But wow, they use it purposely. They use it purposely, and every time I see them, they're living a life that is truly blessed. We were reflecting on their one of the ladies' two children, and she was just so proud in regards to what she's been able to provide for them. You know, she retired, I'm going to say 3 years before we planned the plan to actually achieve. Yeah, so I think she wanted to retire at 63. We had her retiring at 60. But that is a pure case of like someone trusting a professional, working with them, listening to them, managing the risks and essentially the rewards, both financial and non-financial, are there to be seen.
I think also enjoying the process, because like what you were talking about before, this is what I want to become. You're so fixated on that you kind of lose sight of, well, what do I need to do, and enjoy what I need to do now. Because if you don't enjoy it, you don't appreciate it now, you're not going to appreciate it in the future either. Definitely.
And I love seeing the quick wins. And what I mean by quick wins is like you'll have someone, and when I refer to quick, I'm like the Chinese, I build 100 years in advance. So please, I might put a caveat around quick, 4 or 5 years in. And I hear people say like, it's just so easy. I was putting too much pressure on myself. I was deep into spreadsheets. I was looking at numbers. I was looking at PE ratios. I was checking this out, and it's just like, it's just so easy, you know? And when you hear like ease, ultimately, when I boil down and ask a few more questions from them, they'll usually say, I've got more time with the people I love, doing the things I love doing.
Yeah.
And that's just doing its thing. And this all formulates from risk management because they're at ease. They know that it's market risk happens. They're cool. We're fine. Yeah, we're good. We've allowed enough time. We've got enough management. Do I need to worry about concentration risk? No, not really. We check it once a year. We make sure that we're not too out of line, and we're all good.
Yeah.
Do I have liquidity? Yeah, I've got a fair bit. So I'm like they're comfortable. Like I said, you'll never get rid of it, but they've got levels of risk. And when it comes to building wealth, people solely, I think, focus, not solely, but majority on market risk. And they forget about everything else. Yeah. And the big one they forget about is going back to what we were first talking about, was themselves. Yeah. And the risk of them effing it up. Yeah. And in most cases, you're doing more detriment to your finances, completely unaware.
Yeah.
Than not.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Hopefully you love this episode. I do. I love talking about risk. Sometimes it's boring to a lot of people, but you know, I feel like sometimes I've got the whiteboard up and I'm doing the whole matrix going on here. Benjamin Button style. But yeah, hopefully you're enjoying these episodes as well. And if you are, make sure you like and subscribe on all major channels like YouTube and Spotify and whatnot. Make sure you as well too are sharing these to friends and family. We really appreciate it. And I want to give a quick shout out to a few people that have jumped into my DMs and told me how much they're loving these episodes. So thank you to those, you know who you are. It means a lot, and we keep pumping these out for people like yourself. So thank you. Thanks, Ayten.